Hello, everyone. Welcome back to When Shooting is Life podcast. I'm your host, Kue Lee. Today, I have Christian Kane, Tanner Liang, and Adam Thene with me. The topic for this episode will be about Glocks. So, with that being said, Christian and Tanner been on this podcast many times already, so no introduction from them. But for you, Adam, since this is your first time here, can you give us a quick background about yourself?
Yeah, kind of started shooting competitively about this will be my third year. I was able to reach master class. I think got to like 91% with just shooting Glocks and looking forward to just another good year shooting.
Sounds good. So yeah. Before we officially begin, Christian, can you speak on the history of Glocks?
The history of Glocks. Oh, that's a tall order. Just speaking of the entire history of Glocks. Gosh, I guess if you just kind of want to break it down into the basics, let me pull out my props here. So, Glock handguns. It's a very interesting topic. Glock handgun is synonymous with handguns. I mean, you talk about like rap songs, things like that. If you say a Glock, people know what a Glock is. They are not the prettiest guns. They are not necessarily the best guns for anything, but that's like saying, what is the best car? The question is, car for what, right? And what is the best gun? Best gun for what? Glock's a very good, reliable gun. It's kind of the standard by which all handguns are judged, and so I've been a Glock guy. I was hesitantly a Glock guy when I first started shooting. I started with a Springfield XD, and then I switched to a Smith and Wesson M&P, and I was shooting a Sig Pro SP 2022 for a while. And I had this aversion to Glocks because they're just so ugly. But then I decided to give it a shot. I got my first Glock, which is over here. This is my first Glock. This is a Glock 19 Gen 4. And so this still to this day is my everyday carry gun. This is the gun that I still shoot the most. It's got probably something like maybe 30,000 rounds or so through it. It's pretty beat up, but still runs like a champ. I've replaced a lot of different parts on it just through wear and tear. Um, but the history of the gun itself, what's so special about Glocks? The thing that really kind of makes Glock special in just kind of like the history of firearms is that they were one of the first mainstream polymer framed guns. I say mainstream because they weren't the first one, but they were the ones who really made it popular. So, I mean, before Glocks really became popular, you had a lot more of the fully steel frame guns, right? So you're going to have, the slide's going to be steel, the actual frame of the gun's going to be steel, much heavier gun. This used to be the standard for pretty much everything. And at that time, Smith and Wesson dominated the police market, and so I believe that one of the first things to really kick off the popularity with Glock was when the FBI they were looking to move to a new handgun, and so they did a trial, and so they were looking at the Glock, they were looking at the Beretta 92, Smith and Wesson. They had one of their older models in there. There was an older Ruger model in there. There was also, I believe, a P226, and I think maybe like the 220 variant. And so, just through that trials, the FBI that chose the Glock because it was just a very reliable gun. Also pretty inexpensive too, because if you're talking about just the operations to make this firearm, I mean, a good chunk of it is just this is essentially plastic, right? It's just a high grade polymer, and so it's very inexpensive to make. It's a very simple gun, highly reliable, and so that's one of the things that really kicked off. And another thing to make note of is that generally for like a lot of your smaller police departments, they don't have the budget of the FBI to kind of invest in determining, what's a better firearm or what's a better caliber, things like that. So when the FBI goes in direction, a lot of your smaller police departments, they pretty much just follow what the FBI does in terms of their protocol. Um, yeah, so that's just kind of a quick rundown. I'm missing a ton of stuff, but just in the US, that's generally how Glock got started.
All right, sounds good, man. Let's go ahead and answer our first question. Um, and anyone can start to answer first. So the first question we have is, do you think Glock is overrated or underrated?
Both.
I'll go. I'm going to go ahead and say I think it's if anything, underrated, especially when you specifically talk about like the competition world, I think it's underrated. Um, I think that it's, to every point that was just made, it's not the greatest, it's not the prettiest, it's not whatever. But again, I think far too many people overlook like building up the hard skills to support, I mean, it really does at that point, it really doesn't matter what you're shooting. And if you have the hard skills to back it up and you spend the time doing it, now you have yourself a very reliable gun that's not going to leave you hanging middle of the stage or, whatever, like you kind of see with some of the open guns and some of the, even the higher end 2011s, it's just, it will work and it will run you through that stage. You just got to have the skills to back it up, really, or hard skills anyway. So, yeah.
So the question I have for you, Adam and Tanner, since you guys made masterclass with a Glock, did you guys upgrade the trigger or did you guys keep it stock?
Mine was 100% bone stock.
Okay, so Tanner, you're stock. What about you, Adam?
So I started down that road of thinking that I needed, upgrade the trigger and do all that kind of stuff. And I ended up just I got one that's bone stock, and then I have one that has just the Apex shoe in it. And I put them back to stock. I mean, stock spring, stock, whatever. So actually found myself having issues because of the triggers that I put in there. So that's why I took them out. And at that point, it's just like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't make a difference, in my opinion. Like having it versus not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been my finding too. So I mean, the most I've done to a Glock has just been maybe like polishing the internals, and like adding some stippling. But I've had friends who have dabbled into like the recoil springs and like fully changing out triggers, and they've ran into more issues than not. And my experience has been I want a gun that works because I find that I enjoy shooting, like the actual shooting process, more than whatever gun I'm using or carrying.
Have you guys so I first started with a Glock 34 when I first competed in USPSA, and I did upgrade to a Johnny Glock trigger, which is not bad. Okay, so I know that Ben Steger hate Johnny Glocks, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but like the Johnny Glock trigger was actually really reliable for me. But then I realized that when so I just started reloading, I would say last year, and then I couldn't get my reloads to work with my Glock. So I put the stock firing pin spring back into the Glock, and then now it's able to run my reloads. And I thought that was just kind of weird because the reload worked just fine with my Shadow 2, and the Shadow 2, my firing pin spring was probably only 3 pound or 2 pound, and my Glock aftermarket firing pin spring was about 4 pound, and it just couldn't hit the primer. So I thought that was kind of weird. So I think in order for you to make a Glock run good is to just keep it stock. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You should have seen. So I actually did try. I forgot I did try a Johnny Glock trigger in mine at a Ben Stoker class. And if you're familiar with the Johnny Glock triggers, they have those two set screws in the left side of the trigger.
Hmm.
And the top one, like, all of a sudden, I just kept having a dead trigger. And what the fuck, And he comes over, he's like, "What kind of trigger you got in there?" And Johnny Glock, and the look he gave me is like, yeah, like whatever. And it actually
He
does.
does not like them.
No, no, and like the top set screw backed out enough where it was catching the frame, like it was catching the actual frame as it was
Yeah.
and getting stuck there. And and I put Loctite on him. Oh, good to go, And it's like, yeah, another like 2,000 rounds. Again, it backed out with Loctite on it.
Mm.
So yeah, again, just I mean, stock, Apex trigger. I do like that. I haven't ran the performance trigger, so I don't have any input on that, I guess, or the Glock performance trigger. But yeah. Yeah, your reload thing though, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like I've heard some reloading issues with the Gen 5s. I can't remember what it is. Like my reloads when I do reload, dude, I don't sort the brass. I just overall length's good enough, powder's good,
Yeah.
mash it down, good to go, send it. I've never had any issues, so that I don't know, that is super weird.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I feel like I'm justified now in my opinions because for the longest time I've always really liked the Ghost, the trigger connector bars, and they're pretty cheap. They only run like maybe 15 to 30, $45 depending on what you get. There was a post from what's his name, Tyler Meisenheimer. I believe he's like a top 15 GM shooter, and so he just made a post not too long ago saying that that's his go-to. So I've been running those for, gosh, since I started, and for the price, anywhere from like 15 to $30. Like you can't beat the performance and the reliability as well. So like those 30,000 rounds, I mean that's been on just like the Ghost connector, and I love them.
Nice.
All right. So the next question, why do
Oh
you
wait,
guys
wait, wait.
think?
Oh, hold
Yep.
on a
Yeah, go
second.
ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. So I mentioned before that I think Glock is somehow both overrated and underrated, and it depends on people's opinions. So underrated in the sense that I think that you guys are definitely right. When you actually look at like the competition space, you don't see a ton of guys, even like at the national level, running Glocks. There's a few out there, but it's really more dominated by either like the steel frame guns or even some of the P320s, like what I've got over here. And that was something that I was wondering when I was starting into USPSA this year is that did I want to run a competition P320 or did I maybe just want to run my Glock 34 instead? And I was just doing some comparison between the two, and I could find that I was more consistent with faster splits with my P320, and I had faster just dot back to target. Since you have a lot more mass with a P320, and I want to say that's probably why you see more people running either like the steel frame Shadow 2s or the uh, the X5 Legion series of guns in competition, since they've got that much more mass. So I would say overrated, or I'm sorry, I would say underrated in that, in kind of in the sense that there are some guys who do run the Glocks and they perform really great. Just like I said, Tyler Meisenheimer at that at that top national level, it just takes more work. So when I say like I shoot my P320 better, I shoot it like 7% better, and I already had it. So I thought, maybe just give it a try for the season. But there's a lot of controversy with the P320, and I'm really considering should I be carrying this or not. How much do I like not having a hole in my leg? So I might try it for a year and then probably switch to something else later on. Um, so underrated in that sense that I mean you're not talking about like a ton of more performance if you switch to a different gun. Overrated in the sense that a lot of people they swear by Glock and like they won't pick anything but a Glock. And I get it. Glocks are great, but for different applications, there are guns that do better in different aspects. So I would say that Glock is great. It's very well balanced, but um, I think I mentioned this to Tanner earlier that if I had to pick a pistol that I think is a little bit better than a Glock and a little bit underrated, I would probably pick a Smith & Wesson M&P. I think the M&P series is a little bit underrated, and I think that just like stock gun to gun, an M&P might be a little bit better for me anyway. I think the ergonomics are better. Um, I think the controls are a little bit better. One of the things that the FBI they really had problems with when they were first evaluating the Glock is that on the Glocks the slide lock, people are going to get really picky. They're going to make sure that you say this is a slide lock and not a slide release. But depending on how you grip that gun, if you don't have a great grip on it, it's really easy to engage it and either lock it back or keep it from locking back on the last round fired. And that was one of the things that the FBI dinged the Glock on as they were evaluating it. A lot of you guys have probably seen like Cogworks. They make a slide lock that actually is extended, which when I shoot my Glocks, I shoot like this. I shoot high thumbs. So this way I don't interface with that slide lock right there. So I think the M&P is better in terms of like ergonomics. Another thing that you'll often hear people complain about is that the grip angle of the Glock tends to be a little bit steeper. And so it does actually angle a little bit more. And so what that means is that it's ergonomically, like you were talking like the biomechanics, you were talking about the actual natural angle of your hand. It's a tiny bit too steep, but I mean, a tiny bit, maybe like 2 degrees too steep. So I think in those regards, in my opinion, the M&P is a better gun if it's stock to stock. But I think what makes the Glock really good, in my opinion, and the reason that I prefer the Glock is that in terms of like the aftermarket of like holsters and parts and accessories, you absolutely can't beat a Glock. If there's a thing you can do with a pistol, you can do it to Glock. So those are just some of my thoughts.
Speaking of the slide lock, well, yeah, slide lock. Do you guys prefer your guys' guns to have a slide lock or no slide lock? Me personally, I prefer to not have a slide lock.
I guess I've never really never had any thought on it. I guess I never had any um issues with it. You know, I have heard of it, but yeah, I guess I'm indifferent about it.
Yeah,
Same with me.
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I started with a Glock 34 Gen 5 and they have the extended slide lock and I kept locking the slide back. So I had one of my buddy cut off
Oh,
the left side and it ran well after that. So if I could like create a gun, I don't think I will ever create slide lock. But that's just me
But
though.
So with my experience, I honestly found it to be like a non-issue.
Yeah.
Because like let's say we're taking it into like a competition aspect, right, or a context, you should be planning out reloads, planning out round counts.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't really run into slide lock. And if you do, like, sure, that might happen. You know, you're going to war and steel, and you're like, oh crap, my gun's out of ammo. Um, I've honestly found that my reloads really aren't any different either. Because like, I mean, literally, you're just moving your thumb. Can't really see it on the camera, but you're just moving your thumb up to hit it.
Yeah.
So it's I found it to be a non-issue.
Yeah.
and actually, to his point too, that if uh, I mean, I started shooting Walthers in the fall, just kind of as an experiment for myself. But that's one thing. Both my 34s that I ran, like when I did like let's say I went to slide lock, obviously unplanned. 90% of the time that I would shove a mag in there, I mean, it was enough force
Yep.
to send the slide forward in the first place. So I never really screwed around with it at all.
So in conclusion, Glock, no more slide lock, please. I'm just kidding.
that's a you problem, Coop. That's a you problem.
But
How are you shooting? Because I do high thumbs. I do high thumbs, so I don't. I'm not touching
um,
that.
well, how about this? My grip changed now, so maybe the slide lock won't be an issue for me. But back when I first started, I still had that tactical grip where my palm will be like right on the slide lock. But now I don't even grip that high anymore. So more likely that was just a beginner issue when I first started shooting the Glock 34. But since we're speaking on Glock in competition, do you guys think you are at a disadvantage if you choose to compete with a Glock, especially at a high level?
Um, I don't think so. As long as you know what you're getting yourself into, because I think that I view Glock as shooting in a competition wise, thing. It's a double edged sword. I think it shows you where the gaping holes are in your, we'll call it like game of shooting, but it obviously forces you to kind of rectify those issues at the same time. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it makes you be on, you have to be like on it 100% of the time. But when you are, you know, at that point, I don't think there's any disadvantage at all to shooting a Glock in competition. I think that's why you can see some of those like top dudes that are on the top 30 list. I think that Brantley Neerman shoots a Glock 17. I think he was like fourth or something.
Mhm.
It's like I think that once you figure out how to stay switched on all the time, it's as good as anything else, my opinion, I guess.
What about you,
Yeah, I would
You
Tanner?
guys,
I would agree with Adam because I've dabbled into 2011s. I've dabbled into PDPs, 320s, MMPs, competed with all these guns, and the only thing that I've really that I've found that I can say about using different guns and these guns claim to be having a super light trigger or a faster return, whatever it may be. Um, like the way I would justify it is being like those guns are a little bit more forgiving. Forgiving in the aspect of if I'm not on it, the gun will kind of help me a little bit. For example, when I competed and shot M&P with an Apex trigger on it, I found when going back to a Glock, dude, I was shooting low left like crazy, like absolutely crazy. Just because the trigger is so light and so forgiving, that the Glock forced me to like hone into my fundamentals. And then once I started to, understand that and applying that in matches, I was just as competitive as anyone else shooting CZs or even high clapped out open guns. So yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you because I started with 34 and then I switched over to the Shadow 2 and then now I'm going back to not the 34 but the 17. And I did notice that I don't know why, but I tend to shoot better with a Glock. A because it fits in my hand better. But then, like you guys said, the Glock forces you to, work with the fundamentals. Because when I was shooting with the Shadow 2, the trigger was so light, I just, I was just shooting as fast as I can, but then I wasn't really getting my hit. So, um, going back to the Glock, I was able to get my hits. But I will say that when while shooting the Shadow 2, it definitely made me a better Glock shooter though, because the Shadow 2 gave me the confidence to go faster, shoot more aggressively, stuff like that. So, um, yeah, I definitely agree with both of you on that.
Yeah. This conversation's already making me want to put away all the Walther stuff I've been doing and pick up the Glocks again before the next weekend. I'm just like, ah. But yeah, and honestly, for me too, it's like the only reason I actually started shooting the PDPs is I got a steel frame, and then the steel frame match, polymer match, um, is there was a weekend last year. I think it was like a PCSL pistol championship thing at Forest
Yep.
Lake, and the next day was the two gun,
Yep.
and I was just 2 days, 10 stages each day. It was like, oh man, by the end of the pistol one, I think I got like ninth or 10th on that, and it was like I feel like I could have done better. But by the last two or three stages, I was so burnt out, and I was looking at everybody else that had, 2011s and, CZ Shadow 2s and all that stuff. And it just seemed like I was the only one that was kind of like struggling because it looked like their equipment was kind of helping them a little bit, like it was just showing up a little bit for them. Whereas, like, obviously with a Glock, as we just discussed, like, I mean, you got to be on it. Like, it's not showing up for you. You got to show up for it type of a thing. So I kind of got my mind going down a different path of like, okay, like I want to try something different. And I'm glad I did because I think you always learn something different no matter what platform you're shooting. If you shoot it long enough, it kind of teaches you something, even if you go back to a Glock. Okay, like I figured out a different grip from tension or grip tension from this pistol. I'm going to apply it to this, whatever. But that's the only reason I was like, oh, I'm going to go get a PDP steel frame and maybe that will help with that little bit of that long day fatigue and whatever. And I mean, that's honest to God the only reason I even started shooting the Walthers over the Glock, which I still have intention of going back to my Glocks. I don't know exactly when. I would think this year sometime, but we'll see.
What do you think of the PDP recoil compared with a Glock?
Um, I guess I I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about it. It seems like when I shoot my like the 34s that I was shooting, like the dot, the gun just cycled so flat on if I'm being completely honest. Because it was most of the rounds I was shooting was either just 115 Blazer or some 147 uh grain reloads, and it just shot super flat. Like it kind of looked like an open gun, just you know. and that was really nice. And then with PDP, obviously everyone's got the perception of that snap, like they're just snappier and all that kind of stuff. And I've kind of grown to like it a little bit. I shot a couple thousand rounds with like the long stroke system in there. Um, Thought I liked it. Then I switched back to kind of like the normal, just uh, length guide rod and spring, but with a 15 instead of whatever the stock one is. And that's kind of what I've been running the last little bit here. And it's a little snappier, but it returns. I mean, it's just like that dot just comes right back to what it is, you know, right where you're looking. So I've kind of grown to like that too. So I guess I'm because of this pod, I'm probably gonna like maybe this weekend go screw around my Glocks and kind of like do a little comparison, I guess. But
Yeah, Adam, you were mentioning shooting a PDP versus a Glock, and especially from concealed carry. So when the PDPs they started getting real popular a few years ago, and a lot of instructors were moving towards it, I thought, maybe I'll try one out. So this was when I was going for my range master certification. So I spent a couple of weeks. I was practicing the PDP. I was getting all my reps in, and then I went to that range master course, and right before the final qualification exam, I didn't realize this, but I was using a PDP compact, so the 15 round gun, but I was using the 17 round magazines in it. And I didn't realize that the PDP, it didn't have kind of like an overstop. And so I bent that ejector, but I didn't realize it because, I was just doing practicing my reloads, right? So just reloads.
yeah.
And so I bent it and the whole gun just jammed up. And so Tom Givens, he's looking at me, he's like, all right, this is why you kids need to stop getting like the latest and greatest thing. And so, I'm getting ready to like chuck that PDP like over the berm. So I gotta go run back to my bag. I gotta go get my trusty Glock 19. So I end up like 1 or 2 points shy of getting like a perfect score on that and like getting Top Gun for that course. But after that, I pretty much swore off the PDP. The thing about the PDP is I think it feels like it has a little bit more recoil than Glocks. It's got like a slightly higher bore axis, but like you're saying,
Yep.
it's a small amount. You can feel it, but it's up to you to actually whether that counts or not. The other thing that's kind of funny about the PDP is that it's got a more pronounced beaver tail on the back. So the way that I draw my Glock 19 from appendix is I come over and then I always do thumb to rear sight. And then that allows me to reach up and always get that high grip on it.
Yep.
But the PDP, it's got a slightly more pronounced beaver tail where I couldn't do that well. So if I kept the gun, I probably would have shaved it down. So that would be a more slimmer, like on my back profile. Yeah, but I think they're really good guns, especially for the price. They're really not too expensive at all, and I love like the deep cuts on the slide. The deep cuts on the slide, they're so good.
Yeah.
Other than my bad experience, it's not a bad gun at all.
You know what's funny is I did that exact same thing to one of my 34s.
Really?
Yeah, like could not figure out why every fifth, sixth rounds. I can't remember exactly what the malfunction was, but it was fucking up every fifth, sixth round. I was about to huck that one over the berm. I always have a backup gun with me, so I was shooting that one, and then couldn't figure it out, and that's what it was. I jammed a fully loaded mag, and my buddy, he's a deputy, one of the counties up here or whatever, and he did the whole Glock armor class for whatever that actually means, and he's like, hey, you should replace that, like just whatever. And so I put that new one in there with that new ejector on there, and it they bent it. It was bent. Like I couldn't believe it. It was like, he's like, I've never heard of anyone ever doing that. I'm like, yeah, I guess I haven't either. But yeah. And obviously with Walther, like especially that's the one downside is with the like with the steel frames, they you have different mags, right? So like I got this one and a polymer one. Well, when you're buying mags for it, it's like, okay, does the gun have the mag well on it? Does it not? Is it the steel frame? Is it not? And so all the base pads are different between the two of them to prevent that issue. And it's like, I don't know. I guess I've just been running whatever mags I'm like, okay, I'm bringing these mags and whatever I'm shooting. I haven't had any issues yet, but I probably will. I am not that careful with it.
You must have been slamming those magazines because I exclusively run 17 round mags in my 19, and like I said, like 30,000 rounds. I haven't had that happen to me yet. So, yeah, you must have really roughhousing that 34.
Yeah, I'm more of a brute force kind of guy, you know. Like I really, like I said, I've never used the slide stop. I just when that mag's in there, slide's going forward, you know. But
Ooh, that's some force.
You guys
Tanner,
were
have you shot a
oh
PDP?
Yeah, when they first released, I bought into all the hype. So I got the PDP 4-inch compact. Um, and I found that it was really oversprung.
oh, for sure.
A lot of the people around me were like, dude, the PDP, like, it's like super oversprung. And like at the time I was still like, I guess in the honeymoon phase. So I was like, dude, whatever, man. Like I'm running the shit out of it. It's shooting good. But then shooting a different gun, like even a Glock, for example, a Glock's not as oversprung as that PDP was. And when I was shooting it, I didn't find it to be an issue, but it was just something that I noticed afterwards. So that was really the only thing about it. The triggers on it are amazing though. I do like the triggers.
Explain for the audience what do you mean by oversprung? Because a lot of them probably don't know.
Yeah, so when you're shooting the gun, basically like how the gun works is the slide will reciprocate to the rear and then it'll go forward. And then that recoil spring is actually what's doing that. So if there's too much power in that spring, it can actually cause the gun to dip down lower on the return rather than, I guess, flat or a little bit higher than above. So um, yeah, a lot of the out of the box guns that are, I guess, marketed towards duty or self defense are going to be a little oversprung just for reliability reasons. But I found that to be a little bit overstrong, a little too much and more than what I like. It was reliable, so I'll give them that. But yeah, I think out of the box it was a little overstrong.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I feel like that was one of the first things like I switched out on both of them was like long stroke, 14 pound, whatever they put in that. I don't even know.
The ZR
Um,
Tactical long
yeah,
stroke
yeah, yep. And
ultra
then
thrust.
yeah, yeah. Well, and actually, so I switched back to like I said, the stock length guide rod. So I have a captured one that I was going to put in my steel frame, and I was actually on the phone with those guys because at the last match I shot at Forest Lake, and it's like was doing great. And then the last, I don't know why it didn't have issues, and then all of a sudden it did. The last couple, the like two stages, I had like three, four uh, uh, issues where it just wouldn't go into battery, you know. And like, I mean, this isn't like the first round; it's like fifth, sixth round in the mag, and so I call him whatever, and I actually because they got the spacer in the front there, like
Yep.
like all the PDPs almost use the same spring, it's just a different spacer, and I took out the polymer uh match version and then the steel frame version, and they were different lengths even though they're the same length slide and the same everything, so it just wasn't keeping enough tension, and it wasn't, so like it was just lost momentum like right as it was running that bolt up the feed ramp. So I actually put one of their ultramass like uncaptured thing systems in here or whatever, and it's been fantastic. It shoots phenomenal, and then that captured one fits in the polymer one like phenomenal. So I don't know what the deal with that was, but that was a little disappointing. But yeah, I think that's the only issue I've had with the Walthers so far. But that, I mean, again, that was self-induced.
Did you guys since you guys compete with the Glock, do you guys change the recoil spring or do you guys just run in stock?
Stock.
I switched my 34s out with a captured I think it's 15 pound captured 15, so I think mine's a little lighter in both of mine.
Okay. Yeah, because I have a 11-pound spring on my 34, but then for my 17, I just kept it stock.
Do you
But
guys notice a significant difference getting a different spring for your Glocks? Because I haven't really tried it. I mostly just shoot them on stock.
I
I
noticed the
do.
difference. Yeah.
The only
I mean,
difference
yeah,
I really
yeah.
noticed is like with reloads.
Yep, yep,
You
yep.
know, like that's it. I was shooting factory ammo. No, shooting like saw or low power 147 grain ammo through it. Yeah, it feels a lot lighter, you know.
Yeah.
But
Adam, you brought up Glock Armory earlier.
yeah, yep.
Um, what is that?
I'd be honest with you, I think it's, you know, like departments, obviously, you know, most departments that run Glock, they have their dedicated, you know, whatever they call them, like their weapons guy or whatever, and they send them to Glock armor school. And if I'm being honest, like I guess I view it a little bit as of a joke, just because I couldn't even tell you how many dudes came up and they're like, yeah, I went to Glock armor school, you know, and it's like, what? So you can learn how to push out two fucking pins and, you know, pull everything out. Like you know, it's just kind of one of those things that's like, you know, yeah, you know, whatever. So it's like that, but that to me is one of the biggest wins about Glock is like when you can strip that thing down to absolutely 100% individual parts in like 5 minutes or less, you know, with a plastic punch, you know. That's really, I think, something that's cool about them.
Don't
Yeah,
don't dash
yeah.
my hopes. I was gonna try to take that class sometime in the future.
Dude, you know everything that they're going to teach you. I guarantee it. There's, I mean, it's
I feel like the armorers course is more just like a CYA thing, especially for like bigger departments, so
Mm.
they can say like, hey, our guy, our armor here who works on all these officers' guns are certified by Glock, But yeah, I would agree. It's probably just a joke.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's probably a you know, dot the I, cross the T insurance thing. You know, so there
Yep.
is that. I get why they probably would do it, but I mean, the information, it's like, I mean, pull the two
YouTube,
pins
baby.
out, pull it out. Yeah, YouTube it. I mean, you know, be a man, figure it out a little bit.
yeah. I was gonna say, why do people even take those classes? Because you could learn everything on YouTube, and it's actually one of the easiest handgun to take apart, in my opinion. So,
Who's
Honestly
who?
though, I'm not
yeah.
surprised because people are, people are dumb. You know?
Dude, it's crazy. It's yeah.
I mean, I
No,
guess it
because we
does
want to
sound,
be legit
yeah,
certified. We
yeah.
want to
It
be
does sound
legit
legit.
certified.
Yeah, it does sound legit on your resume that you went to a Glock Armory or something like that. Okay.
I actually had a dude. I did a I put the reach reduction kit and all whatever else those like Cajun kits come with in my brother's Shadow 2. And you know, like obviously those are probably they're a little more hands-on, I guess you
Yep.
could call it, to, you know, doing all that stuff compared to a Glock, especially. And I remember he's like, "What'd you do that? Whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, I did this, and this is just some random guy at a match." And he's like, yeah, I'm a, you know, official Glock armor, went through the program, so I could probably figure it out. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's two different beasts there.
I will say that the hardest part to take apart on the Glock is the mag release,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
Yeah, it's annoying.
I should say the clip release. That's
flip. Yeah.
yeah.
Koo calling it a clip is our running joke for the podcast.
All right, so let's move on to the next question.
Wait. I want to talk really
Yep.
quick about that. So I'm used to Glocks. I always tinker with them, and then so I got my P320, and I'm like, okay, I've already gone to matches, and then a bunch of guys are like, yeah, our P320s they did out of battery detonations. I'm like, okay, I don't want it out of battery detonation, so I upgraded the trigger to a gray gun trigger, and then there is oh, I forgot who the company is, but there's another part that you can get to help reduce the chance of an out of battery detonation. And so I went to go install those parts that I got, but man, like the fire control unit on the P320 is so complicated. There's so many little parts to it. And it's kind of incredible that, they went to a ton of lengths to try to make the gun essentially what they really wanted with the P320 is they wanted a gun that you could disassemble without pulling the trigger. That was one of the big requirements. Um, for any of you guys watching, you guys don't know, with the Glocks you have to pull the trigger to disassemble it. And so what that means is that, if you're not sure that gun's loaded or not, then that's it does happen a lot where people are not careful and they do end up shooting themselves or someone else because they try to disassemble a loaded Glock. But yeah, just the complication with how this mechanism is, and even now where there's a ton of reports of this just being not necessarily a very safe gun, where it can get uncommanded discharges. So, yeah, I think it's really cool that Glock just made such a very simple but reliable handgun. Even if there's that little thing of you have to pull the trigger to disassemble it, which is very common today.
Yeah, when I had a 320, I got I think it was like the M17, like the civilian M17 version, and I didn't like the thumb safety, so I took it out, and I didn't know that there was like a pin, well, first of all, I didn't know that I had to get a new frame, like a new grip mod, to plug up that safety spot, because there's a pin in there. So I took it to the range and I shot it, and that pin actually came out, and I was like, what the heck? Like I didn't know this was even here. So when I went on a SIG's website, they actually have a part on the website called like a small parts order or whatever. And you need to like go through the diagram and find the part number to actually order it. And I was like, dude, this is way too over engineered. Like Glock, dude, you can go on Glock store and just order the part. You can go on eBay and order the part. Like it's super easy. So yeah, just wanted to piggyback on you.
So in conclusion, just avoid SIG then, pretty much.
That's what
I
the
wouldn't
internet's for
recommend
sure
them.
say these days.
I wouldn't recommend them.
It ends today.
It ends today.
I don't know if you guys saw this. I think it was relatively recently, there was a lawsuit filed for somebody who was carrying a P320 appendix, and then it supposedly did an uncommanded discharge and killed him. And so I think that was fairly recently that lawsuit just went public.
I think it was up in Michigan.
I think something like that. Yeah.
Damn,
Crazy.
that's sad.
Yeah. So there it goes. All my desire to want to EDC a P320. No more.
All right.
Go ahead,
So, so the next question is, why do you guys think Glock is the most recommended handgun to new shooters?
I guess I for all the reasons that we've been talking about, in my opinion, like simplicity, I guess in my opinion, I don't know if Glocks, I don't. So another thing why I actually like the Walther, specifically the steel frame, is the grip modularity. Like you can just take the screws off and because I have ridiculously big ass hands. So finding a gun that fits my hands actually properly is hard to do. And that's actually something I did struggle with Glocks. But I guess my point is like, I don't know if Glocks actually fit everyone's hands perfectly, but everyone can hold them just fine. They're simple. They work every time. I guess all the reasons above, in my opinion.
Adam, to that point, like everybody always hates the finger grooves on the different gens of Glocks. They fit my hand perfectly, and so I'm the one person who likes the finger grooves because they actually fit my hand. Everybody else hates them, except for me.
Well, yeah, and I guess what I'm talking about too is like, so it's like I'll do like I've done on this one like the just cutting the back strap and it's got grip tape on it. I stole the optic off of it, but like as you can see, it's like my hands are big enough where it's like I wrap it around and they're like touching the back, almost like there's no room for my palm to meet up. So like I just end up when I'm shooting these, I just end up smashing my fingers down. That's how I shoot them. So like that's another reason I actually like kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna try to find something that fits my hands just a little better. But yeah, they're just simple. They work. They're Glocks.
I think so. Like when I first got into firearms, a big point for me, or like when people would tell me to shoot Glocks, is just the maintenance of them. I think that was a huge marketing point when Glock was introduced as well, like how low maintenance these guns are, especially compared to like 1911s or higher tolerance guns. And I think when
what maintenance?
Exactly, right? Exactly. If you clean your Glocks and make them unreliable. But no, that was like a huge point, right? I think a lot of new shooters too, they're getting a gun for self-defense. They want something that works and they can just throw in a nightstand and just forget about it basically. And so that was a selling point for me. I was like, hey, like I don't know how often I'm going to shoot this thing, but if I don't have to worry about it, that's huge. I don't want to have a gun that I have to worry about rust or have to worry about oiling up every whatever amount of rounds or whatever, So I think that's a huge point as well.
Your point about rust. So, I mean, this is the Glock that I have carried through sweaty summers since like 2017. So getting close to like 10 years now. And I don't really take care of it much, but I mean, there's no rust on it. And then my P365, which I carry on occasion. I mean,
Dude,
every small little thing on that is rusty, and I hate it. Same thing
and their
with like my
mags.
Springfield. Yeah. Oh my. Oh, the Sig mags. You just look at them and they'll rust. Like
Yep.
every other gun that I've had has so many problems with rust, but I mean the Glocks they just have such good coatings on them. They don't rust
It, it's
mostly.
it's not tactical if it doesn't rust, man. So
Yeah, to his point though, too, like you can see on like this one, it's like I don't know if you can kind of see, it's definitely got some dings and whatever on the slide, and war like even where there's literally no coating, there's no rust. You know,
yep.
it's impressive. It's yeah.
Incredibly.
Yeah, I think the reason why Glock is the most recommended handguns to new shooters just because we cover a lot of stuff already. But then it Glock has a lot of aftermarket support. Holsters, upgrades if you choose to upgrade your gun or your Glock. So yeah, I think that's one of the most why Glock is one of the most recommended gun to new shooters. But since earlier you guys were speaking about the grip on the Glock, how do you guys feel about the whole grip on the Glock? Because I cringe when I see people put whole grip on their Glock, man.
I think that people put grips unnecessarily on their guns. Like so I got this Beretta 92, and if you know anything about Beretta 92s is that they've already got a very thick
Yeah.
grip on them. But I bought this used, and the guy who previously owned it, he put a hoe grip on top of it. So you've got a chunky grip that's even chunkier. So I would say most people who get grips, extra grips on their guns, they don't really know what they're doing. They just see a cool accessory and it's like $30, and so they're like, yeah, just get it. So yeah, for like hoe grips, I think it's extremely unnecessary. I personally I prefer the smallest grip as possible. Like mine has no additional back straps or anything, because the smaller one just allows me to get more meat on that gun and just wrap my hand better on it.
What I guess I'm unfamiliar with what grip you guys are talking about, like that you can get for Glocks.
It's
The
like a freaking rubber overlay that you slide over your
Mhm.
grip. It's
Oh, really?
like a bike handle
Mhm.
Oh,
thing.
really? Okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
It's so stupid, man.
I guess I either haven't paid attention enough. Or maybe I have seen it again and just haven't even given it time of day. But yeah,
I
It's because
so cool.
you don't shop at the bargain bin section of the gun store. That's why
yeah, I was
you're too high. You're too high end.
too
So
high
cool.
end. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I actually messed with one like a couple of years ago just for fun. I was like, what like is there something here? And I noticed that when my hands got sweaty, I actually gripped the gun less because of the rubber.
Hmm.
So I just
Oh,
ditched it. And then sometimes too, honestly, like it would start to shift on me and I could
yeah.
like feel it shifting. So I was like, this is stupid, honestly.
Yeah, the reason why I say it's stupid because I was those stupid people when I first got two guns.
Dude,
It was
every
yeah, yeah it was like $20. So this is one thing that I notice a lot of new gun owners do is that they feel the need to put every little cheap thing on their gun just because they could afford for it. So my recommendation for like new gun owners, just because you could afford for the upgrade, that doesn't mean it's a good idea to do it or to buy it. So yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things too where people just don't know what they don't know.
yeah,
They listen to the gun store owner and they're like, hey, do this, buy this, buy this. And again, not all gun store people are like this, but for the majority they are. Um, and nothing against females, but females are I would say a part of this. I guess not part of the problem, but I guess they're more susceptible to this problem. Um, because I noticed that a lot of females like to customize their guns and make it kind of girly, and those customizations are kind of gimmicky. So yeah.
hey man, you're gonna get me canceled here, man.
Tanner, how about you and I join the Palmetto State Armory Dagger Nation groups, and then we can cringe at some of the customized guns there.
Dude, I left all that because it was so toxic. I couldn't take it anymore.
Oh,
Dude, it like honestly, like I'm on like I think a few Glock Facebook whatever fan pages and Walther too, and I haven't done it yet, but man, the last few days I've really been like, all right, dude, this is like this is just bad for my brain to look at this shit that people are posting, you
Dude,
know, like
dude, the
it's
PDP page is actually insane.
it's bad. It's so bad.
I talked to Nick Young and Chris Long. I think they work at Walther, and we talk about it all the time. And I'm like, dude, what is going on, man?
Dude, it's why yeah, I don't it's so much worse than the Glock pages. And that's I mean, that's bad in and of itself, but it's just like, man, some of the stuff people are posting on there is like, man,
You need to shoot
like
more.
you are the problem. Yeah.
I
Go
think
join the Palmetto State Armory pages.
no, dude, I
That's
think the
those are the
worst.
best.
I think the worst is HK group because the guns are so expensive. So they think
Also, they
that
just all feel like they're snobs and just
yeah, dude, the HK group is the worst, man. But for the viewers, if you do want to add something to your Glock grip, Talon grips, they're the best in my opinion because with the Talon grip, it still feels like you didn't put anything on your grip. So if you want to add like a little bit more grip texture on your Glock, I would say just go with Talon grip because you can always take it off. It's $20. I mean, and it's pretty reliable. I have the same Talon grip on my Glock 34 for 3 years, and it's still there. Some piece came off, obviously, but it's still there. So, yeah, I recommend Talon grip.
Oh, for sure. They stick
Yeah,
super well. Like I usually when I was running these a lot, like I would I have the one on one of the guns and the other one I have silicon carbided, or however you say it. But I would just keep a backup $20 Talon grip. Like, okay, like because like you said, it's like I would wear off a bunch of the actual material down to like the actual sticky part,
yep.
And it's like, okay, I'm gonna add a match even. Okay, I just peel it off, wipe it down, put the new one on, good to go. Yeah, I think they're definitely something I would recommend as well.
Tanner, since you,
Quick.
yep, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, quick question for you guys. So, probably one of the things that people make fun of Glock guys the most for is that the Glock motto is perfection, right? But the first thing you do when you give a Glock to a Glock guy is you modify the crap out of it. What do you guys think about that? Do Glocks need to be modified that much?
so I think they don't need to be modified, but I also think it's on the other side of it. It's also Glock. Like this, that's the point of a Glock is like you can modify it. You can make it yours. You can change the things that you don't like about a Glock. Um, I think Glock's motto of Glock perfection is kind of corny, whatever. But at the same time, it holds merit, because at the end of the day, out of the box, that pistol's gonna work. It's gonna do its job. It's gonna do whatever you can make it do. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I agree with him too. It's like, but honestly, it's like modification wise, like if someone's like, oh, what should I do to my brand new Glock? It's like, well, go get yourself some $20 Talon grip tape. I prefer having those brass plugs, in the whatever. Go get yourself a plug, put an optic on it. Hey, learn how to shoot. Like you're good to go.
Yeah, my opinion, I feel like if they do more than just adding a Talon grip on it, I feel like they don't actually shoot. Because I feel like if someone upgrade like the whole gun, I feel like those people don't actually shoot. So that's just how I feel.
Yeah, I would say anytime I see people posting pictures of their Gucci Glock with like the gold barrel, the gold trigger, and then all the little parts switched out with gold parts, I'm like, you don't shoot that gun at all,
Yeah.
do you? It's very rare where I see somebody with like a really tricked out Gucci Glock and they actually know how to shoot.
Yeah.
Um, to that point, that Glock's motto of perfection, I actually hate it because if you think you're perfect, then you're not really going to push yourself to improve. And the Glock design fundamentally hasn't really changed at all since it was first designed in like the 80s. Um, as much as I hate on Sig Sauer, I think one of the things that I do really appreciate about them is that for better or for worse, they do kind of try to come out with different models and they try to do different things. Like when the P365, the X macro came out and had the integrated compensator in it. I thought that was really cool. I shot those guns and they shoot pretty nice. That's one of the things I do appreciate about Sig is that customizability is a big part of the handguns. The safety part, I would definitely love them to fix that, but I don't know if you're going to see that. But I, I like it when companies actually, kind of take the product and kind of say, where can we develop it? Where can we kind of push things further? Whereas Glock is just kind of, this is what you get. And if you're really, really, really special, we'll make a special model for you, like maybe with a safety, or maybe we'll make a model where it's a 17 size frame and then it'll fit 19 size slide, stuff like that.
I also want to say I don't like SIG on how they. So I would agree with you that they are pushing, I guess the limits here. But at the same time, dude, like it almost feels like they're just trying to money grab, especially with like
Yeah,
the Spectre series or the Spectre Comp or the SIG 365 Rose. It's like, dude, it's the same gun, you just different
yeah,
colors, or you get a. To me, it was like annoying because I was like trying to keep up with all these different models, and it's like, man, dude, it's like,
it's ridiculous.
You forgot one, the Legion.
oh, and then the X5 Legion, and then the 6 Hour Max, and then
I think
Everything has a Legion
yeah,
variant
I
now.
think the
Everything.
Legion was the most cringiest thing they come up
Yes.
with, man.
Dude, I
Nope.
agree with all that too. Like I'm not a SIG guy. I don't know like shit about SIG, but what I do see about it, like their gun models, is it seems like anytime that there's a fad, like obviously like now everyone wants a comp on their gun for their, all whatever. It's like, okay, we're gonna make 3 guns with comps and we're gonna name them like, Black Hawk, Dragon Killer, and whatever, just like, and it just seems like a money grab to me, if I'm being completely honest. I would agree with that. But I will say, to be, you know, up front, I one thing about Walther though, even though like it's like they, again, I really like my Walters, I really do, but I really simple dude. But
Mhm.
there's like the E frame, the F frame, the like obviously the PDP, but the PDP comes in 4.5, 5. Then you got the
Mhm.
match, steel frame match, Pro X or the comp version, whatever. It's just there's a lot going on where it's just like I don't know if that's a money grab, but it's just like I don't know. There's a lot there.
You guys know about the Legion challenge coin thing, right?
Yeah.
So for those of you guys who don't know, if you buy a pretty much any of their guns in the Legion series, you get a challenge coin from 6 Hour. For those of you guys who don't know what a challenge coin is, it's basically it's it has its origins in a lot of different like military groups or law enforcement agencies where if you earn their respect and they like you, they'll give you a challenge coin. So I've got a couple challenge coins from different agencies that I've shot with or different like range master things where I've won challenge coins. And so that the 320 X5 Legion coin, I just threw it in a drawer because if you don't earn it, it's pretty worthless.
Yeah, I feel like some people might hate me for saying this, but I feel like the SIG market, they market towards people that they wish that they serve in the military.
That's
All
funny.
right. All right. All right. Next question. Why do you guys run Glocks?
Because they're good.
Pretty much.
I'll be honest with you. There's for me, there's a satisfaction in doing more with less.
Hmm.
I really do enjoy that. And there's a slight, I mean, I have to be honest, there's a slight happiness I get, when you, um, can maybe finish ahead of some dudes that, like, oh man, I spent $6,000 on this gun and whatever, and it's like, yeah, man, I got mine off the shelf at Shields for $600. Like I don't know, it's I get a kick out of that a little bit.
yeah, that's a part of it for me too in the competition aspect. But the main reason why I ran Glock was because they're so cheap. And since I have a military background, I got them for blue label pricing, so it's even cheaper. The mags are extremely cheap compared to these other manufacturers. Parts are cheap, and I've always been the type to always want to spend money towards training and ammo too. So if I can save money in something, I'd rather spend money on the training and ammo aspect. So that was a huge reason for me.
Yeah,
I
man. You guys,
swear,
yeah.
uh, I, I swear I'm the only person who has any luck with the Glock P mags. I just have buckets of these, and I run them all the time. And anytime I go on the internet, everybody hates on them. but apparently I'm the only person in the world who has any luck with these mags. What do you
No,
guys
I
think
run
of
them
these?
too. I run them too. I mean, I don't run them from duty, but for competitions and range use, I'll use them all day long. They're like $15, dude.
Oh,
I
when they were like $10, I just got buckets for $10.
I don't think I've ever actually used one. If I'm being completely honest, I just been running Glock my OEM.
I mean, the
Baller
OEM mags are
status.
so cheap too. So
Hmm.
Well, I thought, yeah, it's like, well, I have a whole new appreciation for the price of Glock mags. Like now having to buy mags for Walther,
Yeah.
it's like, and I get that there's more expensive mags out there than Walther mags, but man, like, shit, those are even just the 18 round or 17 round like flat base ones are $70 probably somewhere in there.
insane.
Like it's
Yeah,
just like, God damn it, like
dude.
it's
When I ran SIGs, I was looking at prices and it was like 50 to 60.
Yeah.
So, and at the time I was in the military, so I had to make some friends who were, who had access to mags and may have found a few. There's
So
no way in hell I'm paying money for SIG mags.
that's great. That's great. I think it was Firearm Blog, James Reeve, he was interviewing some of the SIG guys, and that was the question he asked them, why are your mags so expensive? And they got kind of pissed when he asked that because that's one of the things they make money off of. I believe it's still Mechgar that OEMs SIG's mag. Mechgar's been OEMing their mags for a while. And I mean, Mechgar makes mags for like almost everybody, and they're typically like $30 ish. So that's how they make a bunch of their profit. It's just off of those mags for like 50, $60. It's crazy.
And I think another reason too is because since they have DoD contracts,
Hmm.
they're gonna up their prices. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So
Hmm.
makes sense, but at
that's
the same time, as a consumer, it's shitty.
that actually quick story about Sig mags, which again, I'm not a Sig guy at all. Uh, I was at the Iowa match in the fall, like that, whatever the major Iowa match, the
Yep.
down there, whatever. And I watched two people that I was squatted with get put into open because they went to go measure their mags, and they were both Sig mags, like OEM Sig mags, and I don't remember what what base pad they had on there, but they bumped them to open. Like it didn't measure, it didn't lay flat on whatever uh fucking measurement thing they had there. So they OEM Sig mags got bumped to open instead of carry optics.
I've heard of that. That was one of the things when I was getting my P320 is it was reviewed by Humble Marksman on YouTube, and he said that yeah, the 21 round Sigmax, even though this is set up as like a ready to go competition gun, it's just like 1 or 2 millimeters too tall, and you got to shave off just a little bit of that
Yeah.
21 round mag. And if you don't do that, yeah, that happens. You get bumped to open, and you're competing with $10,000, $15,000 2011s.
Speaking of Mac Guard, what do you guys think of the steel clip that they made for Glock?
I
Have you
love
guys
it.
tried it?
Yeah, but I can't wait.
Wait, you haven't?
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm excited to try
Oh,
it. Like I'm
okay.
I'm very happy that they did that.
Did
Yeah,
you
I,
guys
I,
Why?
did you guys see Ben Stager review on it?
I did. I did.
No.
He
It
he
kept falling
yeah,
out of his gun. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think it's because of the mag release is plastic?
I
Mm.
What
Oh, well, didn't Mechar say that they would work with the polymer mag release?
that's what they claim,
so
but yeah.
I think those were specifically designed for the Staccato HD, which is
Mhm.
supposed to run the Glock magazines. And so I think what Metcar did is with the steel. I don't have a steel mag here, but with the steel mags, that was the problem with like Shield Arms. So Shield Arms was making the steel mags for the Glock 43 series,
Mm.
and so the problem is if you got a steel mag and you've got a plastic mag release, then the steel mag's going to wear out that plastic mag release. And so what Shield Arms did is they made a steel mag release for the Glock 43, and then the problem is that sharp corner that you need right there. I think what Metgar did is they just stamped it so it's kind of a smoothed corner, and so you're not going to wear out that plastic mag release. And I think that's what's causing the issue. But I've heard mixed reviews about those steel mags. I heard they work better in the Staccato HDs, and they may or may not work well in an actual OEM Glock.
Mm.
Yeah, that
Yeah, it'd be
makes
cool
sense.
to see. it'd be cool to see them do something kind of like what PSA did with their Dagger series. They have the steel. It's a steel mag, but over the mag where the mag interfaces with the mag release, they put a polymer sleeve over that, so it works out. It'd be
PSA
cool to see if they do
doesn't
that.
PSA doesn't make the most reliable products, but I still love them.
Yeah,
Gotta appreciate the hustle.
Hmm.
I think we just gotta wait for a few more years until they figure it out before before I buy any steel mag for the Glock. Yeah.
yeah. It's not. I haven't noticed. Like, I haven't really been like, oh my god, this is game changing. But it's like, hey, look, a steel mag that what is it, 18 flush or 19
I
flush?
think it was 17.
Is it 17?
Wait,
Oh,
I know I know that they added extra round. So I think yeah.
18?
So plus one, I think for the 17, it will be 18. For the 19, it will be 16 or 17. I don't know.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
I mean,
Google Google
whatever they
to the
did
Yeah.
is
rescue.
cool.
18
Whatever they
round
did is cool,
magazine,
but
$30.
it's not like
Yeah.
I'm not hard pressed to get them.
Yeah.
Like it's like a but it's just like cool that they offered it to the market.
Mhm.
All right, so next question. What are things you wish Glock would change on their gun?
Grip texture.
Grip texture?
Yeah, for me, I'd say grip texture, but also kind of like what I touched on before, for me with like XXX, XL hands, some sort of like, I don't know, like, I don't know how you do that on a polymer gun. So it's kind of you know, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but something where it's like maybe you could, yeah, I get the back straps, obviously the larger ones push your hands further back and all that kind of stuff. But it'd be nice if they had something like, like you see on Atlas, like they're, um, I don't, I don't really know what they call them, like where you can get the different size deals on the
So like,
side. You know
It's
what I
like
mean?
oh,
the palm swells.
Yeah, like the palm swells on the side. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like some ability to do that. And again, probably no one else. There's probably like up 2% of the population that has the same issue that I do, with it. So it probably is wishful thinking, but I'd like to see something like that, the ability to do that.
You're gonna like MMP then.
MMP, like, can you? I've honestly, I've never even shot an MMP. Is
Yeah,
that?
so MMPs they have their back straps, but their back straps kind of go over the sides as well, and they have it's various in thickness as well. So if you, I mean, I don't know how much you want in bulk, but they do change the palm a little bit. So how a Glock just changes the back strap and it's only pushing your hand out
Yeah,
further,
yeah, yeah.
and MMPs are like, I guess the width as well. So it kind of goes over the whole grip rather than just the back
Oh,
strap.
interesting. I'll have to look
Yeah.
at that. Yeah, interesting. I so like like how big I actually want it is. So on this Walther, right? Like everyone gets lock grips, like whether they're palm swell or not. I tried the palm swell, like it was the swell was in like the wrong part. Like I where my hand wrapped around where I wanted to actually come in contact with the frame, like it just couldn't. It just made me hold the gun weird or whatever. So I was looking for different options, and I was on Google, and this dude on Reddit, like there's this Reddit forum, and everyone's like, I don't know, have you ever heard of Magmo grips?
I no.
I feel like
So,
I have.
dude, there's no website, there's no Facebook page, there's no anything. It's just like you scroll through this Reddit thing, and the dude's email's there. So I'm like, oh, sure, whatever, shoot him a fucking email, and he makes custom grips for like Canix and Walther and I think CD Shout too, is whatever. So I hit him up, and he sent me a grip, and like I don't know if you can tell like like how wide
Ooh,
that is,
yeah.
but like that,
yeah.
this is like the first grip, and then it has like this cutout because I'm a lefty, so like my fingers kind of wrap around here, like meet perfect, and this is out. I don't know. It's been fantastic. I still only shot like one match with it, but like so that for me, like yeah, like having that like that out is big. I would like to see that on Glock. I would instantly probably go back to shooting Glock if I could have that.
Adam, since you have such big hands, have you ever thought about the HK USP?
Dude, I'm a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Sheltered fellow when it comes to like guns, I guess, like I I've never even held an HK, I don't think.
The HK USP is fucking huge.
Is
That
it?
Chunk,
that's what she
yeah,
said. Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
Chunk.
But the
Um,
capacity is pretty small.
it's a
So
45.
oh, it's 45. Okay.
Don't they
Old
make it
school
9?
SOCOM 45.
I thought that they make it 9 also.
They might.
Yeah.
Google will tell us.
I
I've heard
mean,
shitty things about HK as a company, though.
what was that?
I said I feel like I've heard shitty things as far as like HK as a company for like at least for civilians. Like,
Yeah, because they mainly concentrate on like
Mhm,
the government stuff.
yeah, yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, because we're poor.
People have been begging for an MP7 for years and years. I'm not MP7,
MP5K.
G36.
no, 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 their small little submachine gun. Is it MP7?
Yeah, MP5,
Yeah. No, 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 no. No,
MP5K.
no, no. We have the SP5. Uh, H
I think it is the
the
P7.
The UMP.
yeah, yeah, the MP7. No, 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 the MP7. MP7, that's the small one that's kind of shaped like an Uzi, where it's got the magazine and the handle. It's chambered in like 4.6 millimeter. It's like the only gun that uses 4.6 millimeter. Cool,
Oh,
you're completely blanking.
yeah, dude. I'm just going based on Call of Duty, man.
It's
Yeah, that's like that's one of the metas.
it's in Call of Duty. Well, they call it some kind of weird name like a hurricane or something. You got to learn the real names.
Okay. Damn, I
Um,
forgot.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, another thing I would change about Glocks is maybe get rid of their factory iron sights
Oh,
yeah,
dude.
and make them
absolutely.
steel like all these other
Yeah.
manufacturers doing.
Yeah, keep it with the white line, but just make it steel. But
Oh,
since you,
dude.
And
yeah,
I'm not saying that they're bad or anything. It's just
yeah,
like all these other manufacturers are they're coming with steel iron sights right out of the box.
yeah,
You don't have to pay premium like that with even with Glock. Like Glock, you have to pay extra for night sight, mirror glows, whatever. And it's like, or you have to get an MOS version or whatever it may be. But it's kind of silly that they're still coming out with plastic iron sights.
Nah, Tana, they are bad.
They're horrible. I dislike them very much.
I don't know, man. I think the Glock sights are pretty good. It's just that it's plastic, and I'm surprised that Glock doesn't make it steel irons because Glocks are supposed to be tactical, right? So we're supposed to drop our gun on purpose. You know what I mean? So
We're
yeah.
American, not French.
But you guys were talking about the M&P earlier, so I do think that the M&P is a better gun overall. But the reason why I stick with Glock is just because I can't stand the M&P trigger. It's so spongy, and yeah, I just hate their trigger for some reason. So that's why I will always pick a Glock over an M&P, even
Have
though
you
the
have you
M&P is
have you
more is affordable. Yep.
have you tried to shoot their new Gen 2 triggers yet?
Yeah, it's the same, to be honest, man. I feel like even with their Gen 2 trigger, supposedly is better, but it's still worse than it's not as good as the stock Glock trigger. That's how I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't
yeah.
agree. I say yeah as in I don't agree, but like,
Why do you not agree?
well, honestly, I think Glock triggers are shitty. Like
Yep.
if you're looking at it as like from like a precision marksmanship type
Mhm.
deal. Because when I'm shooting under speed and pressure, like I don't even notice triggers to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I think Glock triggers are dog shit. They have like five different walls, they're gritty as hell
Mhm.
and super heavy to pull. The M&Ps are still like you can tell they're definitely a duty style trigger, but they're a little bit more cleaner if I had to say a word on it. But yeah, cool. If I ever see you in the range, I'm gonna bring you an MP with the Apex in it. It'll change your life.
Well, that's
That's
the Apex
cheating.
though.
That's cheating.
That's
It
the
is cheating.
Apex.
Honestly, it is cheating. I'm not gonna lie, it's cheating.
I mean, I know the Apex make good trigger, but I'm saying like the stock. I feel like the stock is just trash compared to a Glock stock trigger. Yeah.
All right, so I'll give my opinion on what I think Glock should do, which they are absolutely never going to do because it is Glock perfection and you don't improve upon perfection, which is one of my frustrations with them as a company. Um, they should make a fire control unit, just like what Sig Sauer does. Ruger and Magpul are doing this now. So Ruger has their Glock clone, and so they have a fire control unit, just like how what Sig Sauer does with their guns. So for those of you who don't know, well, those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the actual trigger pack right here, you can actually take it out of the P320 and you can swap it into different frames, different modules. I mean, you can do cool stuff like this, where you can put it into like a flux chassis like this. And it's so cool, all the different things you can customize with it. Um, but Glock's never going to do that because their motto is perfection, and you don't improve upon perfection. You just make tiny little iterations every 10 years or so. You do a small little change. But just go around with like Adam's point, if you could actually just make a fire control unit, then, with Adam's problems of, the frames don't really fit him well, then you could just get a customized frame that actually does fit him well, right? You could probably just 3D, you could actually 3D scan one, and then you could mold one that would be perfectly fit for his hand. But you can't really do that because you've got a Glock frame, and your only other options are you go and get somebody else's frame, but the frame is actually the firearm itself. Okay. So this bottom half is the whole gun. This is the registered legal part. You can't get new frames. You can get new slides, new triggers, new barrels, and everything. Can't get new frames because this is the actual gun. Whereas on the SIGs, it's just that trigger pack. The trigger pack is the registered gun. So I would love to see that. I think Ruger is probably going to be the only place that we're going to see that.
Zev's been doing that for a while too.
Have
For
they?
yeah. You can go. I mean, it's like
Oh,
obviously the Zev was OZ9 is
mhm,
is a Glock clone, right?
mhm.
And that's their whole setup on theirs is like the whole trigger control unit, dropping thing. But like I don't know, then you're kind of going down a whole thing when it comes to like, I guess I don't personally know how I feel about like Glock clones. If I'm gonna shoot that platform, like I kind of just want to shoot that platform what it is for what it is. Like I think I've never really spent much time with Zev, or I haven't shot the Ruger XM or RXM or whatever they call it. So I mean maybe I'm missing out, but I guess if I'm gonna like personally, it would be cool if Glock did that because then it would be I'd be all over that. But when it comes to like trying to do it with a company that kind of does the cloning thing of it, it's like, I don't know.
That's why I want Glock to do it, but they never will.
No,
They
I
never
agree.
will.
I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how Glock they like almost attempted to do it with making the 47s and the 49s. It's like, I mean, yeah, we can swap frames out, but it still doesn't solve the issue that Adam's having, of having big hands. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's probably a good change.
Speak of speaking of clones, have you guys tried I think the Shadow system makes them. Have you guys tried the Warrior Post Society Glock?
Yeah, is that the MR 980
Yeah.
or
I'm
920?
on.
For the price, it's actually not bad. For like $900, it comes with a dot, optic ready, a nice trigger on it. I mean, I haven't actually shoot it enough to say that I would like one, but just based on like checking out at the store, dry firing with the gun, I think it's pretty nice. Have you guys shot one?
I shot
I've
one. And it was I was like, okay, like I don't know, it goes bang. It's a clock. Like I was not impressed.
Yeah, dude,
I
I haven't shot one, but it's like you like for the price point, like what you're saying. It's like
Yeah.
I think what Glock has going for it is that price point that runs from like whatever 500 to 700, I guess, depending on the model that
Yep.
you're getting, right? And it's like once you start venturing out of that, it's kind of like okay, for $900 or $1,000 or something like that, it's like, dude, I'm gonna go like personally, I would go get a Walther with that has the dynamic trigger in it, all that kind of stuff. That's where I would put that money once you reach that, like for a gun versus like spending $900 on a Glock clone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the thing with shadow systems is I was actually training with there's a training group over here in North Carolina. It's a smaller group with former retired SWAT guys. They actually have their own gun. But so they showed it to me. I'm like, oh, this is just a Shadow Systems MR920, but it was customized for them. And so I think that they'll pretty much customize a gun for you if you ask. And so I'm pretty sure that's the deal that they have with like John Lovell and Warrior Poet Society. Um, I think Billy Barton, who's he's a grandmaster shooter. I believe it's the Shadow Systems and not the Zev that he's a big fan of because he likes the way that the frames are sized and the frames are cut. But yeah, for the price, like 900 ish, I'm not really gonna go into a Glock clone unless there's like a very compelling reason. And I think they're also not really that reliable. There was a lot of complaints about like specifically the Warrior Poet Society gun, uh, that they just didn't really run well. And I think Stager says that he doesn't really see them running that great either. And so for that price, if I can get a Glock for half that price, I'd just rather get the Glock.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one of the reasons why I didn't get the War Post Society one is because I don't like it when they have someone name on the gun. You know what I mean? Like
You
for example,
you and that weird thing, yeah.
like for example, I love Ernest Langen. I love to watch his videos. I think he's a great instructor and everything, but I cannot buy his LTT 92 or PX4 Storm because it has his name on it. You know what I mean? So,
Cool. I'm gonna blow your mind. Glock is his name.
well,
Can't shoot Glocks anymore. His name is Glock.
well, it's original though. That's the thing. It's original. If it's original, I'm fine with that. But if it has like someone else's name beside the one who created the gun, I can't buy it.
It's not original. It's based on Browning's design.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Can't shoot Glocks anymore. I've cursed you.
Hey, Christian, I missed what you said about Billy Barton. What did you mention about him?
Yeah, yeah. So I believe he posted a video maybe like a year or two ago where he was actually saying that he really liked, I want to say it's the Shadow Systems. I'm pretty sure it was Shadow Systems and not the Zev, but he really liked the way that the frame is molded because if you look at the Glocks, one of the most common things is people they'll undercut right here, right? So that way you can get higher up on it. And so Zev, they got everything really trimmed down and really molded really well. So I believe Billy was saying that he really liked it because it was cut just perfectly, and he said to do all that custom work to get his Glock to be like the Shadow Systems, it would cost about the same amount of money. So that's why he liked it. I think it's kind of an older video. I don't know if he still does much with that Shadow Systems gun anymore.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because I know that he only like exclusively runs the Zev stuff, so I was curious.
Oh, okay, that might have been the Zev. Okay, yep, yep. No, I got it mixed up. That's my fault. I don't really pay attention to a lot of the Glock clones, except for the PSA
Me neither.
daggers. PSA daggers.
Okay.
You're gonna get yourself canceled, not me.
All right, straight. I'm just kidding. All right. So with all these micro subcompact guns coming out with high capacity, do you guys think they should make any changes to the Glock 19?
I don't, like, I mean, I think the Glock 19 itself is literally like one of the biggest staples, especially in like the handgun, world. Like when you're talking about the like literally the size of a gun, it's always compared to a Glock 19.
Mhm.
It's like you'll see it's like, oh, this is my staccato P. This is what it looks like next to a Glock 19. It's just like that's kind of like it seems like the standard.
Yep.
I it's just if you were going to change anything, I wouldn't change that. I would, you know, go above the models above that or below that size wise, but that's kind of the staple.
Yeah, in my opinion, the Glock 19 is kind of the perfect do-all gun. This is my concealed carry gun. This is the one that I do my classes with. I teach my classes with. This is my do everything gun. And I think it's kind of the perfect Goldilocks size. It's not great at anything, but it's very good at most things, and I love it.
Yeah, cool. I guess I'm kind of confused on your question. So like you mentioned with all these micro compacts on the market, like are you asking like should Glock just get rid of the 19 or you're
Like
saying like they should.
like if they okay, so for me, if if I was to make a change to like the 19, I would just say maybe have a magazine that has a higher capacity. For example, no, not like that though, man. But because like the what is it? The Sig P365 macro is the same size as the 19 and it's much thinner, but it has a 17 round mag. So the question is, well, not the question, but like, so in my opinion, I wish that they will have a higher capacity for the Glock 19 while keeping the same size. You,
Oh, okay.
The
yeah,
Glock.
yeah,
No, it sounds like you're asking for a Glock 43 with a shield arms mag.
pretty much, yeah. But
Yeah.
made by Glock
Well,
though. It
wouldn't
has
it
to, yeah.
like a 19X? Like, is that kind of like fit the?
Well, the grip is too long then. If it's, you know what I mean? Like I want to keep it the same size, but I just want the capacity to be like a little bit higher. Maybe
Hmm.
17 rounds instead of 15. And I'm pretty sure they could do it if the Sig Macro has 17 rounds and is much smaller than the 19.
So you would say the only thing you change is the magazine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who wants a 43 with a shield arms mag?
Yep, that's what he's looking for.
Hmm.
He
No,
wants a
the
you want a Glock
43, the
you want a Glock
43 only
48.
has 15 though. That's the thing. That the with the shell mag is only 15 rounds.
Don't they make a 17 shield arms?
Do they? I mean, I don't follow much about guns, but yeah. I mean,
No,
I just want the Glock to have the Glock 19 to have like a 17 round mag.
I mean, I would agree.
Flush.
I think Glock is kind of lacking, especially like in their single or their compact
Hmm.
carry
Yeah.
offerings, their
Hmm.
43X and the 48. I definitely do think they're lacking in the capacity because, like I said, all these other manufacturers, whether it be M&P, SIG, or I think these are the only two that I can compare it to, but like their mags are killing
Yep.
Glocks. But again, I think Glock's just riding on the reliability,
Hmm.
which is why they produce it.
All right. Next question. Does getting proficient with a Glock help build hard skills to a higher level versus someone who just got right down to 2011 or Shadow 2 path? I can't answer this one. I'm
I,
only a B class.
I mean, yeah, I think I 100% think so because they're kind of like right in the beginning of our
Yep.
conversation. Like I think that is the one thing about Glocks is like, man, it it will show you where you suck and it highlights it. You know what I mean? Forces you to fix that, which then in my opinion builds hard skills. That's where you
Well,
learn the proper way to shoot, the proper way to like, grip, all the things. You know what I mean? Whereas like I think if you were to give somebody like a higher end gun, that just makes all of those things easier, like you can hold it shittier and still do the same thing and you can, like whatever, you can just do all the things easier and it's like, okay, I don't know how relevant it is if they never ever pick up a Glock, but it's like if you take that person, make them shoot a Glock like on a, let's say, a competition level, any level really, it's like, man, I would think that would be a train wreck, like.
So, since you're saying that, do you think a red dot is cheating?
No, not at all. I think like iron sights to red dots, like I think the concept's really not like when you talk about like staying like target focus, like I don't really think there's a huge difference between how you shoot either one. Like if you're target focused, like, I does the dot make it I think more like, or does it make it easier to, stay target focused? Like I think so, but I shoot irons the same way, like I'm still target focused with irons, again, if you have a good grip, a good index, all that kind of stuff, it's like your subconscious knows what it's looking for. And if you're target focused, I shoot it the same way, I think.
Adam, I'm going to disagree with you there because I'm going to say that the red dot is cheating, but that's the point. And anytime you go into a comment section, everybody's like, "Oh, you're cheating because you're using red dot." Well, the counter argument is that that's the entire point of carrying a gun in the first place. I mean, if you don't want to cheat, I mean, you got your hands, okay. But if you want to win, I mean, you cheat. You use every dirty trick, every advantage that you can. And in my opinion, yeah, that's the whole point. Is that we want to We want to get every little piece of performance out of it. And if that red dot helps me to get on target faster, then yeah, I think in a nitpicky sense, it's cheating, and I'm 100% on board with it.
Oh yeah, and I guess I'd agree with that. Where it's like, yeah, I mean, like I said, I do think it makes it easier.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
just, I
oh,
just,
I absolutely agree with all your points. I just
yeah,
in a kind of a semantics kind of way,
yeah,
I think cheating is good.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, dude, stack the odds. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm all for it too. You know, it's just one of those things where I think, I'll be honest. I think when I hear people say like, oh, and it's usually some old dude that's
Hmm.
been shooting since the '90s or whatever, and it's like,
Hmm.
red dots are cheating. It's like, I don't know. It's like I've literally had the plastic sights, the front sight specifically, blow off one of my Glocks when I was shooting it. Versus I've never had a red dot come off yet. I don't know, but
Yeah, no, something that I found has been at the end of the day, they're both sighting systems. And I mean, red dots have been around since I would say maybe the 80s. And I like iron sights have been around for just as long. And they've both been working. So like at the end of the day, I think it's on the shooter. Because like I said, that's the way I found it in my experiences, is that they're both sighting systems. I found maybe red dots to be a little bit more precise, given that you have a whole window and just a small little dot to aim off of. But I mean, yeah, like when I get beat by dudes with iron sights and I'm using a dot, like I feel like a piece of shit. And I'm like, how are these guys beating me with irons? Like I'm not doing something right, right? So, yeah, I just found that it's just come down to the shooter. Especially talking to Tim Herron, which is like a big iron sight guy. He still shoots like low cap 1911 divisions, and he's winning nationals with iron sights. And it's like, damn, So lately, I've been on an iron sight kick, just trying to push myself to be maybe as or somewhat competitive with some dot guys. But yeah,
and I guess what to that point, like how you're viewing the target while you're shooting. I mean, and I guess I'm asking this on like a competitive level, like speed wise, not just like the static, like, banging at the target. Like, I mean, are you staying very target focused? Like you're kind of still shooting it the same way that you would with a dot. It just kind of looks different in a sense.
yeah. So what I've noticed is like well, I guess the only difference that I would say is that with irons, I have to pay a lot, or I have to give it up more attention.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't I can't really be lazy and just look at a spot, see my dot, and press trigger. I have to like look at a spot, maybe like take a glance at my rear, make sure everything's lined up, and then break the shot. Especially if it's like a no shoot type target, or if there's like a tux. Um, because any movement that you might notice when you're going fast, it's gonna exploit it with irons. But with the dot, it's like it's super easy.
Yeah. No, I
But
yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
yeah,
Like,
but for the
and
most
that's
part,
why, yeah, it's like I think that I mean, like I said, I still think like I treat them the same, but I agree where it's like, the dot does make it easier and I think that's the point right there is like the dot makes it easier because of that slight glance that you just mentioned. Like that, like
yep.
it's not like you're looking at it. It's still, I think you still stay target focused, but it's almost like you kind of draw your eyes back just slightly to like verify, I
Just to
don't,
refine it and all
yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
One of the things that I do when I teach a lot of new shooters is a lot of them have that question of why red dots, and one of the things I like to tell them is that it comes down to the margin of error, right? So if we look at traditional iron sights, they actually work the same. Okay, the concept is the same, where you've got that front sight and then you've got the rear sight, right? The only difference is that margin of error where we have to get everything lined up with the dots. That's how much space, that's how much margin you really have. Okay. I mean, you can get a little bit more margin if you're really close, but I mean, once you start pushing that distance, I mean, you really got to get that front sight like dead center, and that's how much margin you have. Compare that to a dot where you have an entire window for your margin of error of how much perfect alignment you need. And so that's one of the main advantages that I teach new shooters is that we like the dots because we say you just put the dot on the target and you press the trigger, which is true, right? But yeah, actually, you are still aligning that gun to the target, right? And that dot just acts like that front sight. It's just that window. That's how much margin you have. Whereas compared to irons, you really only have that much if you really are trying to hit precisely.
First of all, Christian, fix your rear sight.
Oh, yeah, for this one, yeah. I mean, I can't even see the rear sight here, so that's it doesn't even bother because it doesn't even do anything.
But yeah, no, that's a great point that you brought up because what I've noticed is that with my 19, I actually swapped it out for some Dawson blacked out rear fiber optic fronts, and I was looking at on the website, and they have like a carry set, and they also have a competition set. And the carry set, the rear notch is actually more narrow versus the competition. It's wider. Which I guess I was thinking about in my head, and I was like, oh, that makes more sense because the carry, like you want more precision. So if you have a I guess a large or a smaller gap or a larger or lesser margin of error, it's gonna be more precise. But for a competition aspect where speed is key, I guess it kind of, I guess there's a balance there. So that's great that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I actually have that same on one of my Glocks. That same Dawson. I can't remember if you just said you had you got the competition one or you got the
Yeah,
carry.
yep,
But I put a competition one on there, and when I was screwing around with that, it's like I don't know. I guess I just what I like about the fiber front blacked out rear is I kind of view it as a red dot in a sense. You know what I mean?
hmm,
Where it's just like
yep,
again precision. I think you would almost slow down for precision shots with a dot. Even maybe it's just all perception, but like I almost treat it as a dot. You know what I mean? Like I see the red fiber and just knowing that you have a good grip and a good index on the gun. You know what I mean? It just kind of like I see it, I see it, I see it. If I don't see it, all right, I need to change something with something.
exactly,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? Um, but again, I still think it's a dot is obviously it makes that concept easier. That the target focus concept it does make it easier.
Sure.
Speaking of dots, which MOA size do you guys prefer?
Small as they come.
One?
First. What I don't even know who makes one. Is SRO make one?
They make
Yeah.
one.
I, I,
It's
I run Hollisons and I run I think that's a two,
yeah.
maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, the house on
Two.
file 7. Yep, 2.
Yep. So I want to try the new Defender, like with the two.
It's good.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the trend now. It used to be that people wanted more MOA, maybe like a 6 or an 8 MOA for a competition site, but then the trend now seems to be everybody kind of wants to go smaller with it. And I, I think as you look at how the competition space changes, we find something and then we optimize it, optimize it, optimize it. And so we start with those big dots, but then we realize that, yeah, well, when we start going down to a smaller dot, it can be a little bit harder to track that dot under recoil and then track that dot as you're bringing that gun up. But, it allows you to get a little bit more precision as you're tracking the dot on target.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
when
go
I
for
first
it.
started shooting optics, I preferred a smaller optic or a smaller MOA size because my whole thought was like, okay, like, if depending on the lighting or whatever, I could make it as small as I wanted for that precision. But if I wanted a bigger MOA, I would just turn that sucker up and have it blare up or flare up. But then I got a Trijicon SRO in the, what is it, 6 MOA or 5 MOA, whatever the MOA
Yeah.
is. And then I found that I enjoyed that a lot as well. And I found that there really wasn't that much of precision change. As long as I was target focused, it didn't really matter. So now I have a 5 MOA dot and I have a 2 MOA, and I'm a little indifferent on it after using both for a while.
All right.
I know Ruger they make an unpowered sight. I don't know if you guys have seen that, um, where gosh, I forgot how it works, but it pretty much doesn't have a battery, and it does something, but it's a red dot with no battery, and you can't adjust it. It's just a big old dot, like right there, and what you see is what you get, and it's good enough for close-up work.
So it's like a shotgun bead kind of a thing, like the end of it. It's
It's
like I mean, kind of like that concept, or just like literally front post.
no, it's actually
Is it like fiber optic?
a no. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up. It
Interesting.
is the Ruger Ready Dot. So it looks just like a red dot sight, right? The only difference is that it is not battery powered and it's not adjustable. All it does is just projects a huge dot, just like a regular red dot.
Are you looking
And
at it right now? You could screen
yeah,
share it.
sure. Let me pull it up.
How does that work? I
It's
can't
it's
wrap my head around that.
it's it's interesting because I've had some of these show up in some of my classes before, and I played around with them. They're kind of neat. Share my screen, number one. Share this one right here. And so it's unpowered, and it uses this little cell here. Yeah. So it doesn't use any power at all. I think it captures ambient light, and it projects a big fat dot, which is not adjustable. I mean, so it's meant for their EDC guns like the Ruger Max 9. I think it fits others too. Yeah, mounts at P365. So I mean, if you're talking about under 10 yards, you're pretty much going to be like roughly on target. So if you want like the biggest, fattest dot, this is what you want to go for.
Interesting.
Does it work during nighttime?
I don't know how many stars are out.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, Ruger makes some interesting stuff, but they know their market. Ruger knows that, especially with their pistols. They're going more for a budget market, and so that's why they got that out there.
I think I rather stick with Taurus when it comes to like budget handguns compared to Ruger's. Ruger's handguns are freaking ugly, man.
They're ugly, but I like them because I've got a couple of Rugers. I've got like I've got 4 Ruger EC9s that we run in our rental classes, and they just run. Like our Springfields don't run, so we don't even really use our Springfields in our rental fleet. But our Ruger EC9s, they just run, rain, snow. I don't clean them. They're great, and they're cheap too. I think I got them for like $200, and so that's why I just have a whole bunch.
All right. Next question. How do you guys feel about Glock to have the USA on the slide?
Can't even say I've seen that.
What?
All mine say Austria, I guess.
All of mine say USA.
Really?
That's cool.
Yeah, you guys say that, but like all of mine say USA on them. But I've never bought a new Glock. All my Glocks are police trades. I mean, well, I guess this is a 34. This one's not a police trade. That one I got from some guy who was shooting competition. Yeah, but all of mine say USA on them.
You know what's funny? I never noticed that there was a difference between Australia and Austria. This whole fucking time, I thought that Austria was just the people and Australia was the country. Holy shit, man.
We're gonna have to break out a map and do a geography lesson here.
So your podcast just went viral.
So Austria, I learned that it's from Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and Australia is like its own continent. I didn't know that, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm a little indifferent. I don't really care, honestly, because just the research I've done, I think 2017 is when Glock, I guess, sent over a unit or whatever to the States. So I guess the States now are producing Glocks as well as Austria. But yeah, I guess they're in Georgia. So if you guys get a Glock that says USA, it's going to have a Georgia state stamp on the right side of the slide, and you got a Glock that's made in the United States. But I think for the majority of the part, I think they're all coming from Austria. But there's been no difference in mechanical whatever.
You almost say Australia.
I did almost say Australia.
All right. Last question, Christian. This is your question. Go ahead. Go ahead. Bring it up.
Question is, did Gaston Glock just get lucky? And I'm kind of taking a detour. But what I mean by
first, ask Adam if he knows about it.
Adam, do you know about Glock horses?
Do I know what is?
About Glock horses and their special horse products.
Oh man, I can't say that I
really?
Legitimately, like, are you talking about like legit horse products, like horses?
Yeah,
dude, me and my wife, we got 15 head of horse out here. I guess I've never even
really.
Yeah,
as a horse owner, you don't know about Glock special horse products?
No, man.
Oh,
I'm gonna fucking Google it when we're done here, but
no, I'm gonna go into it because Kue and Tanner didn't know about it either, and I thought everybody knew about it. All right. But okay, before we jump into the horse topic, one of the things I want to bring up is that when we go back to the history of Glock, so Glock, he was making military knives and entrenching tools, the shovels, right? So military knives and shovels, and he was not a gun designer. That's one thing that people don't understand. He was not a gun designer. And in fact, when he saw that there were military trials in Austria to make a handgun, he didn't own any handguns. He had to go buy handguns so he could learn about the handguns. And so when he came out with his first pistol, it was the P80. Um, P80 nowadays usually refers to like the polymer 80 guns, but the original Glocks, they were the P80 models. And so it's so interesting to think that, did he just get lucky and just come out with such a good design out of the gate? If you guys are familiar with like Barrett firearms, like the Barrett 50 cal, Barrett himself, he's a photographer. He just likes shooting guns, and then he decided that, hey, you know what? Why don't we make a semi-auto 50 cal rifle? And he just did it. And now his name is legendary. Everybody knows what a Barrett 50 cal is, okay? And everybody knows what a Glock is because, uh, he Glock decided to do something really cool, which is, take his experience working with polymers and make a handgun out of that. And I that's it's such an interesting story of, did he just get lucky and just hit the nail on the head from the get-go, and that design has remained virtually unchanged for like the past, coming up on like almost 50 years. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that's really cool. You don't really see that much nowadays where somebody starts with no background and then just completely knocks out of the park like that.
Sure, for sure.
I
Now tell
think
me
the
about these horse products, man. What are you
Yeah.
All
talking?
right,
What,
all
Yeah,
right.
go ahead. Talk about the kinky
Horse
stuff
products.
right here.
Okay. So, actually, Adam. Oh, well, you know what? Never mind. Never mind. Adam, I think you're mobile. I'm going to share my screen so that way you know that I'm not joking when I talk about this. Okay. So, I don't know if you know this, but if you go type in Glock horses, Glock actually has a horse stable. They have a whole. What? Come on,
oh,
phone.
dude, that part doesn't surprise me at all, dude. Horses are any company, any CEO, whatever. They are like the write-off kings for tax purposes. I mean, that's why you hear people like the cartel have horses. Yeah, it's like that. That's why.
Why is their site not loading? Oh,
Damn,
come on. Why is the
damn,
site not
bro.
loading?
I knew
Ah,
about the podcast.
I know. I know. They decided they did not want their site to load today. But this is real. This is the Glock Horse Performance Center. Okay. This is the Horse Performance Center. Oh, are you loading? I think it's getting there.
It's say not
Uh
secure.
yeah. Their site's acting up. But anyway, they do horse breeding. So essentially you can buy horse cum.
Yeah,
This Glock, yeah. So
dude.
I'm kind of like you, where I grew up on a farm, so that's not too surprising for me.
All
But
right, my
yeah,
mine works. Let me
Glock
oh
horse
oh you
cum.
got it? Okay.
It's not working. Yeah, cool. Share your screen.
All right, hold on. All right. You guys see it?
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. What do you want me to do?
Order semen.
Yeah.
All right.
There it is. There. Oh, I think that's just generally all the different. Oh, I guess those are all the different farms they got.
Adam, where's your farm?
Where's my farm? We're yeah, just west of St. Cloud, man. But like my wife, we have a stallion here, so she does the whole breeding thing, but and stands him and does all that stuff. So like, I mean, again, this doesn't like it's badass. Like it's cool. Like I'll be honest with you, like if they have some like horse Glock horse like apparel. Like I might have to buy some.
They've got watches. Have you seen the Glock watches?
I've seen those.
All right, Christian, go ahead. Give us more details about this semen stuff.
I mean, yeah, I guess there's not too much to say. That's very normal within the farm world. Is that if you got a champion horse, then I mean, you can sell the semen. You can breed more champion horses with it, and it's very, very expensive, depending on how prestigious that horse is and how many championships it's won. That's pretty much the basic gist of it. They've got a
Yeah,
lot of money. It's a very European thing to do.
Damn. I mean, to be honest, these horse doesn't even look that good. I'm just saying.
Adam, do those horses look good? I don't
I'll
know
be
if I
honest
trust
with you. Yeah,
people.
they look like some very very nice horses.
Do they?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Damn.
Dude, if you knew the price of those the horses that you're looking at, you would probably just, I don't know, you would shit yourself.
Throw a
How, mu-
number.
how much is your
Uh,
horses?
like I mean, I see like whatever they're doing is like that dressage and like
Mhm.
jumping shit, whatever. Like I mean, my wife just does like barrel racing and rodeo stuff and whatever. But I would assume, I mean, like if you were to buy one of those stallions that they have, given like how good the photos are and how good they look, I mean, you're upwards of $500,000 probably.
Woo!
Like I mean, maybe more. There's
Dang.
when you get into like the real fancy European horse stuff, like I mean, you're talking millions, stuff like that. But I don't know a whole lot about that, so I mean, somebody could set me straight on there. But I mean, I know in the barrel horse world, like I mean, there's some barrel horse stallions that have sold for, $1 million easy.
Damn.
Adam, give us a number for the horse semen.
For the
With all in
semen,
one.
oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you said, it really depends. I guess I did like what these guys are doing. I think I'm gonna be low when I say like probably like 25 grand for
Oh.
50 grand for, like a vial of semen. I could be very wrong, because I think like most of the stuff like we deal with, it's like a solid like stud that you would breed to would be like, a stud fee of 10 grand, So I'm just like ramping it up given that these European people are nuts.
Hey, but check this out though. The stud fee for these horses are only 1,700,
Oh,
1,000.
What?
Can
That
I
seems
zoom
real
up?
low.
yeah,
That's in
that's
euros, though, right?
How much is euro in
Still.
no,
compared to
dude, that can't be right. I mean, as far as like that might be their
their com?
I I think there's other strings attached. There's no way it's that cheap. That's way
yeah.
too cheap.
Let's see. I mean, it's not in English.
If you had a
Oh,
horse and you
what was
and
that?
you were to breed, if you had a horse and you were to breed to like just a backyard stallion in Minnesota here or something like that, like that's cheap for that even.
How much do you sell your semen?
Uh,
We're talking about horses, right?
horses, yeah. We've just been she's still working him up to like, like obviously like he said, you got to build a name for it and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff to market him and all that kind of whatever. So he's still in that process. So we actually haven't sold outside. I mean, we bred
Yeah.
him, we got 2 yearlings on the ground out of him, but or one. But so still working on it.
So I just looked it up. I just looked up how much is horse semen like generically, and it says a gallon can potentially be worth up to 4.7 million.
A
Yeah.
gallon? God damn.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I wasn't kidding.
Is that how much a horse cum, dude?
Adam,
Per
you said
gallon?
vial. You didn't say
Gallon? I mean-
you didn't say a gallon.
I don't know about a gallon, but fuck, man, that's
Okay, so
Holy
a single straw of semen from a high quality stallion can cost around 1,200.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, a gallon.
but that's the thing is like when you use a straw, like I mean, it's like I think they do like. God, I'm gonna if my wife watches, she's gonna kick my ass. But it's like more than one straw. It's like multiple straws that they use like at one time. And again, that's like okay, you spent all, let's say $10,000 in the straws to do this with zero guarantee at all. So you might be spending another 10, 15 grand to, locally to do, to get what you want.
Yeah, that
Dude, it's a
sounds
whole
That's
thing.
amazing.
I don't recommend. I don't recommend going down that horse rabbit hole if you boys are interested in horses. It's
I'm expecting to go to Costco and seeing like a bulk discount now.
yeah.
I mean, a pocket bully, their semen is like 5,000 already for like the champion bloodline and everything. So I'm pretty sure a horse would be like way more than 5,000.
Mhm.
Yeah. So okay, all right. You guys still want to talk about combs, or
I,
are we good, Christian?
I think we got it covered. I mean, that's pretty much it. This is normal farm stuff, I would say. And actually, I think that goes into the culture at Glock. Glock's a European company, um, and a lot of the culture kind of goes along with that. Glock is extremely protective of their brand. So, for example, even like for like airsoft, Glock was not licensing their guns for airsoft for like the longest time, and so you just had knockoffs of the design and everything, and they're very protective of what you can and cannot make for Glocks in terms of like replicas and things like that. Whereas a lot of other companies, man, Smith and Wesson, they make ninja stars. Like Smith and Wesson is not protective of their brand at all, and sometimes I wish they kind of took their brand name a little bit more seriously. Um, Honestly, I really wish that when the U.S. military was doing their pistol contracts, instead of Sig Sauer or Glock winning it, I really would have loved to see Smith and Wesson win it because I would love to see an American company really kind of bring back like the dominance in firearms again. Because if you look at who's manufacturing guns, I mean, you got like FN making like our rifles, and then Sig's gonna potentially make like the new rifle. And why can't we have American companies really dominate that farm space? And then I don't know what Colt's doing. Nobody knows what Colt's doing. They're just kind of still making the same old, and not innovating or anything. So that's kind of some of my thoughts. I really wish that, as much as I love Glock, I really wish that we had a good U.S. company really start to become popular in the pistol space. I
Wait,
don't know
so
your thoughts on that.
so Sig Sauer is not an American brand.
No,
What the
German.
hell,
Cool, where you been?
dude?
I
Where
mean,
you been,
Dude.
they
man?
have a branch in the United States,
Hmm.
which I think they're in what, Connecticut, New Hampshire.
Yeah, I think most of the new designs, like P320, 365 stuff, I believe that is coming out of the US. I believe that SIG's moved a lot of their operations to the US because Germ the Germans are not a fan of the way SIG has been running things. I mean, there's SIG's done some real sketchy stuff, and so yeah, I think a lot of SIG operations moved to the U.S., but I mean, they're not really a true U.S. company.
Hmm.
I
I
do
mean, I
find it odd
guess
though that
to
MMP stands for military and police, but yet there's no military that runs them that I know of.
I don't think they've ever gotten any military contracts because the M&P name, I mean, that's from like the revolver days, and I don't think any military's ever run. I could be wrong, but I don't think it. Well, the U.S. military definitely not. Maybe some smaller countries.
you might see. I mean, give it some time. I guess it's like I definitely not a big staccato guy, but I mean, I don't know the road they're going down with that HD they came out with, where they're kind of taking what a Glock is and blending it with a 2011, and it's like where does that road go? Who knows? But I mean, that could be something that puts an American gun company back on top eventually. I mean, who time will tell.
Some high dollar stuff though. You know how U.S.
Yeah,
military
yeah, for
works.
sure. Like you would have to get your prices like under like they would have to do like some I don't know like a budget models or whatever. Because yeah, I totally agree. Like as far as keep like that, it would be the biggest thing that's probably keeping them from being like top tier, most popular brand is 100% the price of the firearm itself.
What
Smith and
about
Wesson needs to stop making Keltec clones and just like develop their products and stop making ninja stars. Just please. You got a good pistol. Just do something better with it.
what about
Yeah, it's kind
Taurus?
of
Is Taurus a
So
U.S. brand?
now they are.
No, they're okay. All
So
right, what were you
they
gonna say?
they were in Brazil, but now they're in Bainbridge, Georgia.
Okay.
But anyways, I was gonna say that I know when I was in the military, I worked close to some special forces guys, higher unit, special operations, and they didn't even run the SIG. They ran all Glocks, which is kind of weird, kind of crazy to me, but whatever.
Mm,
Don't blame them. I don't blame them.
Seen some guys had
okay.
Hollisons on their Glocks too.
Really?
Hmm.
I thought we had a Berry compliance where they couldn't do stuff like that.
I don't know how those boys work, but I guess they can run whatever they want. But I did find that interesting.
Yeah, if you're doing secret squirrel stuff, I guess they have a little bit more leeway.
All right. Uh, anything else? Nothing else? All right.
Yeah.
If nothing else, then we could wrap this up. So, Christian and Tanner, you guys been here many times already, but for you, Adam, since this is your first time here, where can the viewers find you?
Oh man, I don't even remember my Instagram handle. You can find me on you can find me on Instagram. I think it's Athene, so just Athene 101. I
Okay.
think it's my Instagram handle, and then just Adam Thene on Facebook. And I generally post my good matches. No, I if I I'll post whatever on there. Like if I shoot a match, if I get some videos or have someone video me, I'll throw that on there. And yeah, so check it out.
All right. I'll look up. I'll look you up on Instagram, and I'll put your information in the description. Well, uh, if nothing else, we will end this podcast. So I appreciate you guys coming in and talk with me tonight. So you guys have a good night.
Yeah,
All
good
right.
talking with you fellas.
All right.
Nice meeting you, Adam.
I'm gonna stop
Thanks,
Yep, nice
recording
meeting
guys.
you.
right now.